Nobody gives a about your recording degree. I am not joking. Let me repeat that in case there's any kind of confusion about this very inconvenient fact. Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, gives a flying about your recording degree. I put up a poll the other day asking just how many of you graduates out there from audio school actually found jobs in your industry. And out of 6,800 votes, 79% of grads of audio schools did not find any work. 79%? What the kind of bullshit racket is this? Now, before we really jump into this, if you're new to recording and you want to get your head around basic concepts like how a compressor works, I've got a 90-minute, 3-part audio basics course that's not 80 grand like a Full Sail program. I'm giving this one away for absolutely free. It's my way of saying thanks for you being cool and just watching the show. Now, about that poll, I gotta say, it's not scientific, but I am still kind of shocked. The purpose of higher education is to qualify you for employment. At least that's the line that college recruiters have been leading us to believe. I certainly fell for it. I'm a college grad too. I knew the job placement rate these days was bad, but a 79% failure rate? Why the hell is anybody still paying for this shit? But I learned so much. I networked.
Completing an education shows more, though. It shows that you have dedication to finish something you've started. Additional benefit is that you meet like-minded people. So expensive networking. High school dropout, by the way. Oh, my friend can't stop raving about those Callies either.
Okay, great. You paid 80 grand to network. But that's not getting you a job in the music business. You're now in debt up to your ears, and no, I would not like fries with my order. Here's an inconvenient fact about that particular line of wisdom. If you don't live in a major city with a large entertainment industry, all that networking you do at school is going to amount to jack shit. Exhibit fucking A, I live in Windsor, Ontario. It's like living on Jakku, except it's less welcoming. However, I will agree that having a diploma means you can complete a task. And that's all it means. Nobody gives a shit about that diploma besides you and the school who charged you 80 grand for it. I've had a lot of kids come in here over the years to the studio handing me resumes, none that came with an attached CD or USB stick of any of the projects that person had worked on, which would have told me everything I needed to know about that person's skills in about 30 seconds, as opposed to a resume, which tells me absolutely nothing important. Seriously, fuck your piece of paper, show me what you've done. Look, I am seriously in favor of education. I live under the philosophy of try to learn something new every single day. But I also subscribe to the philosophy of don't put yourself into a lifetime of debt for a useless fucking piece of paper. Full Sail grads, I am talking about you. Here's a quote from a recent Full Sail grad.
Avoid predatory private for-profit schools like the plague, i.e. Full Sail. I was dumb enough to get a bachelor's degree from them, and 80% of the classes consisted of just being redirected to lynda.com or a YouTube video recorded years prior. Seriously, don't make the mistake. You'll regret the close to 6 figures you dump into it. I basically paid the shitty school obscene amounts of money for a guided YouTube tour.
Yeah, I checked it out. A Bachelor of Recording Arts science degree, which is a fucking laughingstock in the audio world, will set you back 82 grand! To learn from YouTube videos, and I would hope a membership of lynda.com. Who knows? Maybe they charge extra for that? Now, ponder for a moment what you can do with 82,000 American dollars. You could literally outfit a basement studio with a Focusrite Red 8 Pre, an Audient ASP-880, a pair of hardware distressors, a pair of Atom S2Vs like I've got right here, a set of Earthworks drum mics and a Lot and Tube mic, 4 SM57s and a Rev Generator 120 Mark III with a matching 4x12, a set of Pearl Masters maple gum drums, plus matching hardware and cymbals, plus an extra $2,000 for some DIY acoustic treatment. Add in another $1,000 or so for some Cat 6 analog over network cable breakouts, and you've got a complete studio for roughly $31,500. And that's not using cheap gear either. So what to do with the leftover 50 grand. Well, you could take 24,000 of it and spend it for a year at OART, a school in London, Ontario that actually teaches you useful shit. As far as recording schools go, that is the one place I would recommend. And you could take the other 30,000 and hire a top-level producer in your genre of choice to personally teach you one-on-one for 6 weeks at $5,000 per week. Trust me, audio engineers are whores and would most probably jump at the chance to get paid $5,000 a week. Hell, with the money you save by not going to Full Sail, you could probably do all three. Build a studio, go to OER, and hire a producer for one-on-one instruction. Not to worry though, if you absolutely must get the Full Sail treatment, they've got a much more affordable 5-month online course that will only set you back $9,700. So I'm probably gonna burn some bridges with these videos, but you guys deserve the truth. I met some of the SAE guys from the Oxford campus at AES in New York City in 2019, and we were getting the ball rolling about maybe teaching some drum recording here and there for a few days. It would have been an amazing experience. Fly to England, teach some people, would have been great. But SAE is another private for-profit school that charges 87 grand for a degree. Now, to put things in perspective about SAE, here's someone who's actually experienced working with an SAE student.
SAE? Seriously then? Okay, I'd say don't get me started on SAE, but now you got me started on SAE. So I produced an album for a band, and the guitar player was sitting there. They came to me from far away and they're producing the whole album. And then I find out the guitar player is going to SAE. And I'm thinking, why the fuck wouldn't you produce the album? And if you're not experienced enough to produce the album as a guitar player going to SAE, wouldn't you look over my shoulder? Wouldn't you ask me things? Wouldn't you be like fully interested in what's happening? Nope. The guy had no interest in recording. The guy had no experience in recording, yet SAE took his money. Now, how far would he go after SAE? Not very far, because he had no interest. Even worse, drummer in a metal band that I worked with went to SAE, had zero knowledge about recording. They still took him because, hey, we take your money. If you're not into it, then why would they take him? He had zero microphones himself. He himself, as an SAE student, in the middle of his studies after a year, didn't even own a recording interface. He had no audio interface. What kind of engineer is he that he doesn't own a single microphone as a drummer and a recording interface? Wouldn't you, as a drummer, studying recording, record yourself every day, move the mics, play around with it, do drum replays, like learn all these things at home? Nope, zero interest. Which is fine, the guy's a fuckhead. But as a school, what school lets a guy sail by and for a year accepts the fact that he can't even do anything at home? Zero. For his final, he asked me to do audio editing for him. And I said, no, dude, this is shit you have to do. So this guy got a degree. I'm into recording schools if it's a good school and you pay your dues and you do the shit and you're motivated and you get everything out of it. Then the networking and everything's great. In Germany, SAE, total joke. When someone says, yeah, I went to SAE, then that means, yeah, let me better do it. So people that went to SAE literally don't know shit.
Now, I got to check out a mastering lecture given by Myra Applebaum at the SAE Hollywood campus a few years back. It was beautiful, but it was dropped right in the middle of a sketchy as hell neighborhood. Had some really amazing gear, and it closed about a year and a half after I visited. But given the fact that SAE charges such outrageous prices for a degree, I'm not exactly certain that I'd like to be associated with teaching there, so I think I'm gonna pass. Now, what's really got me wondering is if some of these big dollar schools are nothing more than the audio version of a diploma from ITT Technical Institute. Remember those guys? That place closed its doors in 2016 due to some extremely shady business practices, and diplomas from there aren't really worth anything these days. Please, for the love of Crom, proceed with caution if you're considering one of these schools. Don't just talk to the recruitment people. Try and find someone who actually spent the money and graduated. See how it worked out for them. If you're serious about getting into music production and are scouting out a school, here are some questions to ask before you ever consider putting down tens of thousands of dollars that you probably don't have. And this is specifically for the kids out there who want to record the heavier stuff, because chances are you're going to get some blank stares as replies. Ask these questions. How many days will be spent learning how to record acoustic drums? How much time will be spent on blast beats and ghost notes and gating techniques for both? Will there be anything taught about amp sims and how to dial them into a mix? Or how about growling vocals? Is that even going to be considered? Is that going to be in the curriculum anywhere? If you don't get a concrete answer to any of these questions, then walk away! Because the only thing that school will guarantee you is years of frustration. Why would you pay thousands of dollars to a bunch of self-certified experts who don't know jack shit about recording metal? Oh, but it's a broader course. Great. That's not going to help you get bands through your door. Bands want to hear how heavy you can make mixes sound, not your latest country and fucking western mix. Now here's the other side of the coin. Here's a quote from a former recording school instructor.
I was a college professor of sound engineering for 15 years, now retired. Did we teach useful material? Yes, we did. Did the students actually learn? Some did, but most did not. I would say that chances are only about 50% of my students ever ended up having a career in sound. It is helpful to have a curriculum that covers all the bases as in-depth and accurate, but when it comes down to it, you really learn by doing, by reading, and by hanging out with and listening to experts. My best students were those who were actually just doing it on their own already. They learned a lot because they already knew a lot. I was totally self-taught. I started on an open reel deck back in 1968 or thereabout and just kept at it.
Now, for some additional perspective, here's my own personal experience. I did media arts at Sheridan College in Oakville, Ontario from 1989 to 1992. And the first job I got after graduation, roofing. Followed up by a stint slinking beans at the local Green Giant plant. Followed up by stamping bumpers. That's the thing about Windsor, Ontario. It's an auto town. We used to have Ford, GM, and Chrysler. And I heard this line all throughout high school. You'd better go to college or you'll wind up at Chrysler. So what happened after I graduated college? I wound up at Chrysler. And it felt like winning the lottery because Windsor, Ontario is the place where hope goes to die. Now, during this time, I watched some of my friends from college go on to have some pretty amazing careers in media. Guys who went on to become head of audio at a major media company. Another, the head technologist. Another one, he edits for the Discovery Channel. And I'm very happy for those guys. It's great when people are successful. But the one common theme among them, they were all go-getters. These were exactly the kind of people Bob was talking about. Different school, same theme. Now, for the record, I've never once regretted going to college. I learned an awful lot there, and it was an escape from Windsor. High school for me was a traumatic experience, and I was involved with the wrong kind of people. And it nearly killed me. I considered myself lucky that I walked away in one piece. Now, that's a subject for another video, as I'm sure there are many of you guys out there who are struggling with the high school situation as well. Watch for that one in the future. College was a phenomenal experience for me, though. I was there 7 days a week, holidays, March break, and I rarely went to parties. It was the first time in my life that I ever got straight A's, and I even walked away with some production credits. And that experience made it even tougher to return to Windsor. I was forced to take a slightly different path than my classmates. With all that education, I got busy building minivans. Lots of them. 6 days a week for 27 years. I also swore to myself that I wouldn't let my education go to waste. Media arts is a bit of everything: photography, video, and audio. So I thought I'd save up my Chrysler money and open a recording studio because, funnily enough, I thought it would be easier and cheaper than a video operation. Video tech in the 90s was really damn expensive, and ADATs seemed to be within reach. So that was the plan. I read every single piece of info I could get on the subject of recording, and I never, ever gave up. I opened up Spectre Sound in 1998, and I've been busy pretty much ever since. Now, the job has definitely shifted over the years. I went from recording bands to making YouTube videos, and I was finally able to go full-time with it in the spring of 2020. That's 28 years after I graduated school. Now, don't get me wrong, walking away from Chrysler was a tough decision. Great hourly wage and an unbeatable benefits package, plus 28 years of seniority. But given the current state of manufacturing, you'd have to be blind not to see the writing on the wall. The last 30 years have been filled with stories of manufacturers declaring bankruptcy, closing up shop, and stealing the pensions from people who spent decades paying into them. It's happened here in Windsor numerous times. So I had the opportunity to get the fuck out of Dodge when things were still in reasonably good shape. and I took it. And I've never regretted it for a heartbeat. I really fucking hated that place. My point being is, you make the best of the situation that you're in. Nobody ever grows up saying, I want to be an auto worker, because it's the most mind-numbing work ever conceived. Here's the parts you have to put in the vehicle, now do it 500 times in a row. It's physical, it's tough, and there's a lot of finesse involved, and repetitive strain injuries are a motherfucker. I can't think of a single person I worked with on the line that doesn't have some kind of chronic pain of one kind or another because of that fucking place. But the wages and benefits allowed me to go into business for myself. And let's be very clear here, there is absolutely no money in recording local bands. I sure as hell didn't make much. And there's no social life either. Every weekend, every holiday was spent in the studio. Now, because of that work ethic, I was constantly busy for a very long time. Maybe I should have charged more? Probably. But I did pick up a hell of a set of production skills along the way, because when you work with local bands, the job isn't about making great music. The reality is, you're teaching people how to play their instruments for the studio. You see a lot of the same mistakes being made over and over again, and in my case, that's how this channel got started. I put out how to get your band ready for the studio so I could save my clients some money. Never in a million years would I have ever thought I'd be able to make a career out of it. Still, it's hilarious when you get messages like this. Some genius wrote this quote the other day, and I just had to laugh.
A viewer takes time to write in explaining he's too poor to start a real studio. What's Glenn's response? Have you considered getting a day job? No, Glenn, I'm sure that never fucking occurred to him. Glenn has been making a living as an engineer for so long that he's completely gotten out of touch with what it takes to finance a studio. Yeah, Glenn, for most people, a day job is not going to cut it. I've done the math. In the United States, the only kind of person that can afford a studio is a person who can make well over $45K a year. And since Glenn knows very little about America, he's completely unaware that more than half Americans make $35K a year or less. A day job isn't going to change anything for most Americans. In fact, not even a second job will enable most Americans to build a studio. In fact, I know several people who have their own studios. Most of them come from well-to-do families. Sorry, Glenn, but you need to realize that most people will never be able to afford to open a recording studio. In fact, I'm currently building a studio. However, I'm not doing it on my own. I have 3 other guys that are all working together to get the gear we need. In fact, we all just pooled our money together to buy a mic. Being stuck in poverty fucking sucks, and Glenn needs to be a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, so I've been making a living as an engineer for so long, like about a year now. If I didn't have a day job, it would have never happened at all. It really comes down to life choices you're gonna make. I drove a sensible vehicle and I didn't have children, also I could have a studio. It's possible, but it really depends on what kind of sacrifices you're willing to make and how hard you're willing to work. Now, if you're dreaming of recording bands for a living, and especially in metal, please keep in mind that only a handful of people really get to do this full-time for the labels. And those labels are very comfortable with who they're working with and will rarely want to try someone new. Or they might just not pay you at all, like Cleopatra Records did to me. Not to mention, more and more bands are just recording at home. Make no mistake, the good old days of recording are over. Recording budgets just simply don't exist like they used to because people don't buy music like they used to. And that fact is not going to change anytime soon. If anything, people looking for work need to broaden their skill set. I feel like a lot of these schools are still operating as if it were the 90s. I ran into a kid the other day who was a recent grad from audio school, and he's a big fan of the show. Conversation went like this. Hey Glenn, are you hiring? Yes, in fact I am. Oh cool, I went to audio school. Fantastic. Now, can you edit video? No. Do you have anything for just audio? No, I don't. I need more than that. Truth is, a good chunk of music is now on YouTube, and I really don't understand why these schools aren't teaching at least a basic video course. Audio skills are nice, but for what I do, I need somebody more well-rounded. Someone who can not only mix in Reaper, but edit video in DaVinci Resolve. Someone who's a self-starter and not completely fucking useless, like that kid from SAE that Henning had to deal with. Bottom line, if you want to go through life paying off a student debt, by all means, go to a big name private recording school. It'll cost you a fucking fortune and it'll take forever to pay off your loan, and somebody out there is going to make a very tidy profit off your back once all that interest kicks in. Now, if you're looking for a job that pays well, consider picking up a trade. You can still do recording on the side, afford some great gear, take some online classes, or watch one of my tutorial playlists at the end of this video for absolutely free. Because the world needs electricians, not more kids with recording degrees.